In the shadow of the Rockies, a city once called the Queen City of the Plains has reinvented itself time and time again.
No matter where you're at, you can try to create the spirit of the homeland.
Denver is where history meets hustle, where old Western grit beats in sync with modern ambition. A city that has become a cultural and political force.
I think at every turn when Denver's faced challenges, it's found a way to reinvent itself. It has entrepreneurs and civic leaders who are more committed to something bigger than themselves. And I think that's what makes Denver have this still big city with a small town feeling.
From frontier legends to cultural pioneers, Denver has become a symbol of transformation, a city that's found its power not by erasing the past, but by building upon it.
But the Beatles played here in 1964 for like $2.
From prehistoric footprints to futuristic skylines, this is the heartbeat of Denver.
I'm Kolyn, a storyteller drawn to the past and to the cultures that connect us. I've always believed that to know where we're going, we must first understand where we've been.
Okay, and tell me what you guys learned here.
Now he's very here because he said the site was beautiful.
And I'm Lindsey. I chase stories and sometimes the thrill that comes with them. 1 minute, I'm free falling from 10,000 feet in the air. The next, I'm 1,500 feet underground. I live for the moments that bring us closer. And Diana Ross played here?
Yeah, she was here just last year, actually. Yeah, some of the most famous shows in the world.
As we travel the world, we're chasing more than stories. We're chasing connections. Each culture, each journey reminds us we're all part of something bigger.
And what makes this all more meaningful is sharing that journey with our daughter, Kynsley, discovering a country's past, present, and future together as a family.
Because to understand where we are, we have to know where we began. And only then we can see where we're going.
This is World of Travel.
Season 2!
Hold on, you can't hear. You gotta say it loud.
Like I see the dinosaur.
Where do you think they are? That way? All right, let's go. Just a short drive from downtown Denver, you'll find one of the most extraordinary places in North America, where 150 million years of history are written right into the stone.
Way before there were people here, THC, skyscrapers, this is a stomping ground for dinosaurs.
We're talking about 150 million years ago, even more than that. But right now, you can actually walk in their footsteps, literally, at Dinosaur Ridge.
Here, time feels like it's folded over itself. What looks like an ordinary hillside holds the stories of ancient oceans, reptilian giants, and people who uncovered them by accident. Get Your Guide connected us with Jeremy Jenkins, owner of Amazing Adventures, to take us around and break it all down.
So here you can see where the waves or water would have hit behind here, and the ripples created an effect that you see on the beaches. And so, yeah, this has been preserved from 100 million years ago.
Each ripple and each rock tells a story.
And then in the 1930s, when they were making this road to Red Rocks, they were blasting it with dynamite, and the workers actually uncovered the footprints that we'll see in a few minutes.
We had to walk up this hill, overlooking this highway, to come see dinosaur tracks.
It's a lot for a 4-year-old, but, you know, geologists, paleontologists say this is one of the top sites for dinosaur exploration in North America. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. But I did hear Jeremy talk about how these dinosaur tracks were discovered, which is wild.
Yeah, these people were hating on each other a little bit.
In the 1800s, that's when they were researching a lot of things, and the field of paleontology was growing. And so two guys had come out here, and they had such a bitter rivalry that when they'd excavate an area, they'd dynamite it when they'd leave, so the other guy wouldn't even find it.
That's like next level pettiness.
Yeah, but no, Colorado was definitely one of the biggest states at that time.
Competition, discovery, and ego. The human story is layered right on top of the prehistoric one. Because every great find has always come down to people daring to look deeper.
These footprints are really important because bones only tell you so much of a story, right? There's not that much information about behavior. So by analyzing like how far these prints were apart, you could see like how fast they might have been moving.
So now you can see dinosaurs were real and they really existed. How does that make you feel?
Good.
Good? All right, give me 5. Makes me feel good too. From creatures that roam these ridges to legends that would later echo through these same hills.
Just a few miles down this ancient highway, another kind of history was carved into stone, one where native tradition, sound, spirit, and nature collide.
It's pretty relaxing.
A place where my daughter and niece got cozy with the creatures in their natural habitat.
What do you do? I don't know, but if it starts flying, I'm gonna have a broken phone. Y'all look. She put a ladybug on her.
It's just a ladybug.
At nearly 6,500 feet above sea level, we are at the Red Rocks. Now, you've probably heard of this place for its amazing concerts and all the things that happen here. But way before that, dinosaurs used to roam around here, and it was really historic. But what I love about this is that it's a natural amphitheater, meaning that the acoustics and all the great sound, that comes naturally, and the only architect here was Mother Nature.
Yeah, this isn't just geology. This is history. The Arapahoes thought this place was a spiritual place. I mean, I feel it now.
The land remembers. For Indian communities, these aren't just rocks. They're shrines, markers of presence, echoes of ceremony. One person who lives and breathes this history is People of Sacred Land CEO, Rick Williams.
So if you think about Red Rocks and you think about places like Roxborough Park, all along the Front Range, there were sacred sites that were very important to us. And that's where we would go to pray. And that's where we would go to honor our ancestors. And today, those places are state parks or they're concert venues. And even to go there to pray, we have to pay. Those were our churches. And people don't understand that that's part of our religion. Those areas were sacred to us, and they always will be sacred to us. Each one of those rock formations takes on a special meaning to us. People who go there see it as, oh, this is nice, but they don't see it as sacred. They don't see the sanctity of it.
For the Ute and Arapaho, this wasn't a venue. It was a vessel, a place to speak to the Creator, to ancestors, to memory itself.
I'll go up there and I'll put tobacco down and I'll say a prayer, pray to my ancestors, ask for guidance, ask for help, and then thank the Creator for making things happen that we can make a more meaningful place, a meaningful way for our people in this country.
Rick says when visitors come today, they can honor his history when visiting the Red Rocks as how they would experience church, rather than how they would experience a party. But as settlers arrived, ceremony gave way to spectacle.
The biggest group that was native of Colorado were the Utes. And so that group and other ones had used this for some ceremonial purposes way back in the day for a long time. And then when the first settlers came here, they had come up here before there was any stages or anything. And they do like, some 3-4 piece bands, some opera shows, and then later, of course, rock and roll.
That evolution became permanent in the 1930s.
A guy had gone to Sicily and seen the amphitheater there. One of the guys who was like part of this as a Denver city park. And so they were debating whether they should destroy like the natural environment or put in the amphitheater. And of course that argument won out. And so the Civilian Conservation Corps put in the seating from 1936 to 1941. And yeah, the rest is history.
History and legend.
But the Beatles played here in 1964 for like $2.
Yeah, I saw that. And Diana Ross played here?
Yeah, she was here just last year, actually. So no, they've had, some of the most famous shows in the world.
U2, Jimi Hendrix, Nat King Cole, Florence and the Machine. Generations have stood in this bowl of stone and turned sound into ceremony. I'm embarrassed to say, as somebody who's had a home in Denver for 5 years now, I have never been here. You're my first person bringing me here.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's like I'm from Buffalo, New York, and it's not like I go to Niagara Falls all the time. A lot of the time, it's normal that many people in Denver even come on my tours. I'm like, oh, where are you from? Like, I think they're coming from Texas or New York. They're like, oh, I'm from Denver.
Whether you come here to pray or to witness a guitar solo bounce off the canyon walls, the magic hasn't gone anywhere.
Take us through a night here. I want to know, like, what's the vibes? What's the culture like? How does it feel to be at a concert here at the Red Rocks?
I think the whole vibe here is magical. You know, there's not a lot of places like this, which is one of the reasons why, out of all the amphitheaters in the world, this is usually in the top 3 every year. The only thing is, in May and June, you can still get like hailstorms.
It's not like we can put a cover over our head, right?
Exactly.
We're in the elements.
Yeah, when they have lightning, the show's over pretty much. I think they'll wait like 20 to 30 minutes and see if they can continue. But yeah, no, that's
like a Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah, you never know.
Natural cathedral. Open sky, no roof, just history.
There's a reason why that site has been voted 10 years in a row as the best concert venue in the world. I mean, not in the country, in the world, because there's literally no place else like it. It's not just you in a closed box somewhere in Houston or Dallas. It's actually you.
Hey, don't beat up on Houston. Kolyn's from Houston. Okay, good.
I had to give you a hard time.
Closed dome.
All those closed domes. But you have the natural environment. You have the open rocks. You have thousands of years of history from Ute and Cheyenne and Arapaho who were here to early settlers. If you're a performer, there's nothing like it. If you're a fan, there's nothing like it.
Red Rocks isn't just a venue. It's continuity from ceremony to sound. And just like the land preserves its stories, Denver holds the legend of one of its most famous and complicated sons, Buffalo Bill Cody.
Unless you're hiding under a rock, you probably heard the name Buffalo Bill. But the cool thing is that he was famous long before there was Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, all the ways that people can easily get famous now. He was famous purely by word of mouth. Who is he more significantly to history?
I mean, so many things, because he initially was on like something of the Pony Express delivering mail. I think it went by a different name at that time, but he was a scout during the Civil War. He was a guide for people coming out from places in Europe to go hunting.
Then Jeremy tells us about a prolific author named Ned Buntline, who met Buffalo Bill in 1869. Buntline wrote sensational novels about Buffalo Bill, stories that transformed William F. Cody into a nationally known folk hero. And that sparked the question that would change Buffalo Bill's life.
Why don't I do the show? And so he gathered up a bunch of people that he knew from back in the day and other famous, famous cowboys or people in the Wild West. He had Annie Oakley in the show, who was like a famous sharpshooter, and several Native Americans. And so it was this Wild West show, like in a big stadium, they'd, run around and do have people getting chased with a horse and buggy and a shootout and all these different things. And it became famous, not just in the United States, but he even went to Europe for 5 years.
One of the fascinating things, because we are a travel show, is how Buffalo Bill was able to get around with no high-speed plane getting from country to country. I mean, he went 1,400 different cities in 30 years. That's way more than I've even traveled, and I have the luxury of taking airlines. So explain that to me.
So I imagine, he took obviously trains where he could, and boats and other situations, but this is before aviation travel. And he had so many bisons and horses and props for the shows.
And it wasn't always a smooth journey.
Like any other business, you have problems along the way. I know one time he was either going down the Mississippi or somewhere, and, he's carrying all these horses and buffaloes and animals and all these props for the show, and it sunk, and he lost 2/3 of the animals.
Well, he was a legend for the cinema and the rodeo. He would do these big events. And what sticks out to me the most is his business acumen and how he did everything. And it wasn't just about doing the business, it was about doing things that he loved. So much that he lost everything by spending so much money to put on these huge rodeos, which is amazing. And that's kind of like what I put into World of Travel is, I want to put all my money into the show and to make it as best as possible. And so I'm kind of pushing all my chips to the center of the table. Okay, and tell me what you guys learned here.
He got buried over there. At first he was wanting to get buried in Wyoming, but he changed his mind on his deathbed. And now he's buried here because he said the site was beautiful.
So Buffalo Bill was an indecisive guy?
Yeah.
What did you learn, Gia?
I learned that he got the name Buffalo Bill because he hunted 4,000 more buffalo.
4,000 buffalo? Wow, that's a lot of buffalo.
William F. Buffalo Bill Cody was known for his support of women and Indian civil rights later in his life, a progressive stance for his time. His father, Isaac Cody, was also known as an abolitionist, but his legacy is still complicated.
Buffalo Bill Cody is an enigma for Indian people. First of all, early in his career, he was a scout for the military. And in his role as a scout for the military, he killed two very prominent Cheyenne leaders, Tall Bull, and then later on, Yellow Hair. And so when we think about that, that's part of what we see when we see the Buffalo Bill Cody Museum. But also, there's another part to this. The other side of my family, they were all participants in the Wild West show and would travel with Buffalo Bill Cody all over the country. And we have some fabulous stories about those visits. One of my great grandmothers, when she was 16 years old and she went to England and they were getting ready to do a performance for the Queen, they had them lined up outside the hall, and the Queen's person that took care of the Queen's proceedings came in, and she told them, she said, the Queen is going to be coming in and you all have to bow to the Queen when she comes in. And this 16-year-old girl says, I'm not going to bow to the Queen. I'm Oglala. I don't bow to nobody. I think that kind of reflects the mentality of cultural differences, and there's lots of stories like that about that. He was, in his later years, he became a friend of Indians, but there's always that stigma of what he did early in his career.
So we went to go see Buffalo Bill's gravesite.
Yes.
And learned a lot about Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
He was kind of forward-thinking in just trying to champion women's rights or trying to abolish slavery based on some history I learned about his father, wanting the same kind of things. Like, what does Buffalo Bill's legacy mean to the wider Colorado? Is it something that you guys talk about often?
I think it is a great example of how many Colorado historical figures are complicated. There are ways in which Colorado was ahead of its time. We were the first state in America to establish the right to vote for women by a popular vote. 100% electorate of men voted by 55% to give women the right to vote. First state to do that. Ways in which we were very progressive on making this a city where African Americans and Latinos could move or live in the city and get access to jobs and opportunities earlier. And yet there are still hard parts of that history, right? I mean, certainly Buffalo Bill was a part of a lot of the, I think, raiding and depletion of the buffalo stock had been part of, I think, certainly the murder of some Native individuals and some of the exploitation of some of those Native Americans in some of his shows early on. But there are ways in which he was still forward-looking. And so I think we try to acknowledge all the hard truths about the Buffalo Bill story and share the parts that we think are parts of the legacy to hold on to and parts that are there to learn from, which are things that we want to make sure we get better on. But that is one of the stories of the Old West of Colorado. I always say there was a time where Colorado was the capital of the Old West, and Denver was really the capital of the Old West when you were coming here to stake a mining claim in silver or gold or to look for oil or gas. Now we really want to position Denver to be the capital of the New West, where it's still a place where everyone can find opportunity, but it is inclusive. It does welcome everybody. It does see everybody. It's still connected to the land and the outdoors, but it has also connection to the rest of the world through one of the world's busiest airports and one of the world's fastest growing economies. We think the city can do both, and that's our vision of Denver as the capital of the New West.
Colorado has always been known as a state of first, from granting women the right to vote before the rest of the nation, to pioneering the boldest social experiments of the 21st century, legal marijuana.
I will open up my window and just let that fresh Colorado air in. That's absolutely one of my favorite things.
And then you might be able to open up your window and smell the weed too.
Yeah, we like to call it the Rocky Mountain skunk. I go skiing a lot, and when you're up on the lift, you can smell that Rocky Mountain skunk. Seldom seen, often smelled.
So this building behind us isn't just a symbol of Colorado government, it's also a symbol of how government can actually change the culture.
Yeah, 2012 marked the year where literally the grass was greener in Denver. Amendment 64, marijuana was legal.
In 2012, Colorado became the first state in America to legalize recreational marijuana, sparking a nationwide movement that redefined what freedom, business, and community could look like. Jenna Green of Colorado Cannabis Tours has been in the marijuana industry from the very start, and she's ridden every dramatic wave of change along the way. She invited us inside a grow facility to understand all the hype.
I always like to start off with some fun facts, namely, aside from marijuana being super rare and special in that it gets us crazy high, it is rare and special in that it also needs both a male and a female version of the plant to reproduce. That is so rare that only 17 plant species out of over 300,000 plant species require that. So we only care about the females. This is a girls' club only. Females grow the bud, male plants produce pollen sac and pollen, and that causes nothing but problems. So we actually kill off all the males, and you should too. Even at home, if you plant a seed within the first few weeks, if it is not showing signs of being a female plant, you have to kill him.
That's right, male plants are useless here. Only the females flower, so growers eliminate the males early to protect the buds.
So you will notice none of these plants have marijuana on them, and that is because they are in a vegetative state. And we are forcing them in this vegetative state by controlling the lights.
To control every stage of growth, farmers manipulate life cycles, keeping plants in the vegetative state until they are ready to bloom.
So people at home might not know the difference between indica and sativa. I have no idea what that means either.
Okay.
So can you please explain?
Indica mean in the couch.
Yeah.
Sativa mean in your head. It's a more
Clean your house.
Clean the house. Boom.
Okay.
You will clean your house on the sativa.
Yeah.
I can attest to this.
Indica? In the
Yeah,
couch.
I don't know how I found out, but I found out.
So explain to everybody if they don't understand the in the couch analogy.
Sure.
What are the differences?
So we'll go way back because I'm an over-explainer. That's just me. So indicas originate in Afghanistan. They're desert dwellers. They're Afghanis. So they grow real low, short to the ground, in this like Christmas tree kind of structure. And then they have these big, wide fan leaves that tend to be really dark in color. And they typically have like that cushy, earthy kind of smell to them. Where sativas are tropic dwellers. So they grow tall and viney with buds that are really sparse, fluffy, and kind of just in different spots of the plant. They have really thin leaves that are like bright green, and they tend to have a little bit of like a citrusy, fruity smell to them.
All this science and sophistication doesn't exist at first. Before the fancy facilities and designer strains, Colorado's cannabis scene was completely unregulated, and people like Jenna were helping shape it from the ground up.
So I'm going to take you back to 2009. That's when we voted on medical. I was there for that. I signed the petition to get it on the ballot. I voted it through. 2010 is when medical dispensaries just started to pop up. And that's when I entered the industry. So when I started, it was completely different. It was just medical, and there were no grow facilities or anything like that. People were still growing in their closets, and they would bring in big, huge trash bags full of weed. And there was no lab, there was no testing. I was the labs.
Back then, it was the wild, wild west of weed. There were no official labs, no regulations, just growers bringing in trash bags full of product for people like Jenna to inspect.
So I would ask them to pull out the most beautiful nug that they had, look at it, smell it, squeeze it. Then I'd break it in half and smash it in front of them and watch all the color drain from their face. As I then put it under a microscope, and I would look for mildew gnats and spider mites and stem rot, and then grade the quality of their weed, and then I would offer them a price per pound, and then I would buy pounds of weed off of people, and that is what we then sell in the medical dispensary.
Then came the turning point, what the state called dual integration. So dispensaries could only sell what they grew themselves. That policy professionalized the business, but it also created tons of barriers. Suddenly, you needed serious cash to stay in this game.
Now, you had to have a lot of money to both build out a grow and start a dispensary, and there was only X amount of licenses that they would release. So as medical dispensaries started getting more popular and getting profitable, if they wanted to expand their business, They couldn't just go to the state and get a new license to open a new dispensary. They had to buy an already existing license off of somebody who already bought it. So instead of spending $25,000 to the state, you're spending $2.5 million to an individual. And all of those individuals that got in on the ground level, they were in it for the passion. They really believed in the medicine of the plant. Well, as companies wanted to expand, now they can sell out for $3 million. And so what we found is that a lot of big business and big money started to infiltrate the industry because they had to bring on these investors to be able to afford these new licenses to be able to expand their business so that they could have more than one location. And once recreational took hold, especially in 2020, when sales skyrocketed, that's when you saw big money come in. And in my opinion, that was the biggest shift in the industry, is because you don't have all these owners that are passionate about the product anymore. You have owners that are passionate about making money.
From a medical beginning to a billion-dollar industry, Jenna Green witnessed the marijuana revolution.
So me personally, my political ideology tends to lean libertarian. So I feel adults should have the right to make their own decision about what substances they put in their body. If they do something against the law, well, on that substance, they should be punished for doing that thing against the law, not for having that substance. That's my whole core belief. But aside from that, I've just been a long-time fan.
That sense of independence is woven into the state's DNA, a spirit Denver's mayor says helped shape its modern identity.
Now we have to talk about marijuana.
Yes.
Obviously, 2012
What could a
changed.
conversation about without marijuana?
They attach it so much to Colorado. How much does it mean, and what were the actual reasons why you think the state rallied to make this? Was it like attachment to social issues? Was it an attachment to actually wanting to grow this product that they think might medicinally help people? Yeah. What was it that made this the state, one of the first states to say we're doing this?
Yeah, we were one of the first 2 states to do it, and I think we've implemented it better than any state, in part because we were really responsible and thoughtful about how to do that. And I think it was a combination of things. It was folks who wanted to stop generations of criminalization of marijuana possession for folks that were not harming themselves or others. It was about realizing it could have medical benefits for folks who needed it. Much better to use this than maybe a pharmaceutical painkiller that might have different and more dangerous side effects. And it was the desire, I think, to be progressive and proactive in saying, we think there's a different way to go about this than fighting a drug war against a non-lethal substance. And now Denver and Colorado have regulated it. They've measured it, they've stamped it, they've tracked it from seed to sale, and we've tracked all the things we were worried about. Would we see increased amount of adolescent use? No, we have not. Would we see increased violence around these locations because of theft or abuse? No, we have not. Would we see increased effects of marijuana as a gateway drug to harder drug usage? We've tracked all of those and not seen any of those indicators spike, which I think means we've done it in a responsible way, and that's why you've seen, 40 other states who followed us. So we think it was initially an attraction and maybe a novelty for Colorado. Now we think we've proven we can do it responsibly, and that's, I think, been a good thing for the state.
The ripple effect of legalization didn't just change law. It sparked creativity across industries.
So we're gonna make a real simple pipe today. I have the prep work done just so that way it's a little more speedy, but we're going to decorate a pipe and then we're gonna shape the pipe, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's a really fun, neat process that not everybody gets to see. So, you guys ready?
Chris Schutz is what you call a master glass artist.
So this is what we're gonna make our pipe out of. It is hollow. It usually comes in a 4-foot length, but we just take small chunks off of it. I've already done that just to cut a little bit of time. I've preheated it, so it is currently at about 1,000 degrees, so don't want to touch it. This is another piece of glass, still glass, different color. We're gonna use this to decorate this. When this is decorated, we're gonna shape it. Think of this as like my marker, and this is my canvas. I know this looks transparent, but it actually has silver in it, and because of that, silver is gonna change colors. It's more of a blue, green, purple. So if you're wondering where the decoration on this comes from, it comes from this, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we end up with something like this. All right, step 1, fire. We're just gonna preheat a little bit more because we lost some heat in there. I'm gonna get a nice glowing orange.
What temperature do you need to get it to?
So right now the flame's about 3,800 degrees and the glass is working in the high 2000s, low 3000s.
Yeah.
So definitely not something you want to touch. Now, glass is an insulator, not a conductor. So that heat does not travel down the handle. So that's why I'm not wearing any gloves or anything like that.
So why do people like to smoke from these pipes? What's the difference? What's the benefit?
Right, so there's an art aspect to it. You know, when you roll a joint, you know, it looks like a cigarette. It's nothing special. I mean, yeah, there's some cool artwork out there they're doing with joints and whatnot, but some of these are serious pieces of art. I have friends that sell pipes for $10,000, $15,000 at a time. I mean, those really are just pieces of art. So it's always nice to look at something that you're smoking out of, especially when you're high. You're like, this is amazing. I think there's a cleanliness factor to it as well. I mean, I think we've all smoked out of bongs and enjoyed that, you know, that water percolation. So there's a little bit of a cleanliness factor to it. And maybe a little bit of a status too.
From glass artists to growers, cannabis culture has inspired a new generation of entrepreneurs and artists.
I see both positive and negative aspects of it. Obviously, we had a really big boom. You know, coming in just after the 2008 housing bubble, and 2012, I believe, is when we went legal. It filled up a lot of empty strip mall spaces where these dispensaries were. It filled up a lot of warehouse spaces where they could do these huge grow operations. It employed a lot of people. So in that aspect, I think it was great. That was awesome. I also personally love being like, hey, I need a little bit of weed. I'm gonna go down and buy some weed real quick. That's great, you know, it's so much better than being like, oh, I gotta call up my homie and go here and meet here and it's gonna look shady, like, But some of the things I don't like about it, especially early on here, it was like the Wild West and everybody was moving out here. Everybody wanted a job in the weed industry. And that's great, but we became saturated. I mean, we had more weed shops than we did Starbucks here for a while there. So it kind of brought in a crowd of people that weren't really, I don't know how to describe it. They were enthusiastic about it for the wrong reason, I think. And then now, since we had such that large boom, now we have a bust. You know, the industry is, I don't want to say struggling, but it's definitely on the decline.
Like any movement, the marijuana industry had its highs and lows. But for Denver, it symbolized progress, a willingness to experiment, to learn, and to evolve.
I like our slightly rebellious attitude here in Colorado. We have kind of a reputation for bending the rules. We were one of the very first states to both introduce and break prohibition. We are the very first state that has the very first marijuana arrest, as well as as legalizing it. So we're kind of dualocity in that, but I've seen time and time again that Colorado has this really kind of rebellious, entrepreneurial, you know, on the edge kind of spirit. We were everybody who came and saw the mountains and was like, you all go ahead and we're gonna start businesses here and you let us know how it goes. So I've always liked that kind of entrepreneurial, adventure, business, kind of rabble-rouser.
That rebellious and forward-thinking energy is what continues to drive Colorado. a state always on the cutting edge of change.
And although this place is well known for what it did in the marijuana movement, it also should be well known for what it did in the women's suffrage movement, even before it was popularized throughout the United States. In 1893, Colorado was one of the first states to decide that women should have the opportunity to vote alongside men. So kudos to Colorado for being one of those states on the forefront of major issues that ended up influencing the rest of the United States. From women's rights to cannabis reform, Colorado's capital has stood as a beacon of progress for more than a century.
As Colorado continues to evolve, its capital city reflects the blend of past and future that defines this region.
When Union Station first opened up in 1881, it was a big symbol of progress. But like many rail stations across the country, it almost didn't survive the 20th century. It's amazing to see how far it's come today.
Well, in the 1960s, a lot of these buildings were, about 100 years old by that time, or 80, 90 years old. So not just in Denver, but across America, you could actually look at all the old buildings. Most of the old parts of cities look like something in Europe. And so they were going to destroy all these old buildings in general. And this woman, Dana Crawford, if you see at Union Station, there's a Crawford Hotel. She was part of the restoration of a lot of these old areas.
The preservationist Dana Crawford fought to save Denver's agricultural soul. Starting with the Union Station, her efforts gave the city new life, one that bridges history and modern innovation.
But yeah, they've got a really fancy bar, not just on the bottom floor, but above there as well. There's a hotel in there, several restaurants, and like gift shop and a coffee shop. So yeah, that whole area is quite a good spot.
I never thought I would come to a train station to hang out, but I literally did that. We did our baby announcement photo shoot when I was pregnant with Kynsley in the station. So it's a big deal. It means a lot to us. And the reason why I picked it, it was one of the nicest looking bars in Denver. Yes, in a train station.
Union Station's rebirth in 2014 turned what was once a decaying landmark into the heart of a thriving downtown and a symbol of Denver's renaissance.
Talk to me about that growth of Denver specifically. I read a lot about Union Station and how it almost became decrepit, and now look at it. I've never want to hang out at a train station. I'm from New York, and I actually go there to have a drink, which is ridiculous to me.
Yes,
okay?
right?
We run away from train stations in New York.
The idea that the lobby of a train station is a 5-star hotel is a crazy concept, and Denver makes it work, right? You have the Crawford Hotel there at Union Station. You have the Terminal Bar. You got Cooper Lounge, all great spots. And so, yeah, Denver's gone through some chapters. When I was a kid, we called it an old cow town. It was like it was a small town in the West. But you have places that recognize that history of what the city used to be. But every time the city's down, it always gets back up and fights forward again. That was true. You think about Larimer Street. That was the first the first structure built in Denver was built in Larimer Street. It was literally made out of the covers of coffins because there was no other wood available. First building. And it was the center of the city for 50 years. And for about 80 years, it was completely abandoned. It was flop houses and all sorts of rough and go spots. And then that's been totally revived in the last 60 years. Union Station was abandoned for a while, now is the epicenter of lower downtown.
That rebirth didn't happen by accident. It was fueled by decades of reinvention and a community determined to make its city shine.
I remember coming out here in the 90s, and I think Denver was quite worn down in the 70s, 80s, 90s. When they got Coors Stadium in 1996, it was around the time that they started wanting to make downtown much nicer. So around like 2001 or so is when they got the other stadium for the Broncos and the basketball stadium. And that was kind of at the time, like about 25 years ago, that they wanted to make this area really nice. And so they have a committee that got together to do all of these cool murals and get together with the artists, decide who's going to do what and where. 2% of the money for construction actually goes to artists. So there's I think about 75 or 100 murals around this area of Rhino. And also Santa Fe Road, a little southwest of Denver, that's got a lot of cool murals as well. And yeah, I think there was a major drive in the last 20 years. The demographics and a lot of things have changed in the city, especially with legalizing marijuana. Now, don't get me wrong, there could be negative things with that, but it did bring in a lot of artistic people who are the same kind of people who want to make all these different cool beers. And so you've got more breweries in Denver than any other city. Just in this area in Rhino alone, there's probably 20 or something like that. And so yeah, tons of breweries, tons of good food, and tons of good art.
From the murals of Rhino to the creative spaces of the Dairy Block, Denver has become a playground for artists, entrepreneurs, and dreamers.
The longer I've stayed in Denver, the more I realize this is an amazing place. And there are thought leaders here, and there are people who just want to hear you out, and you don't get that everywhere. And so that's what makes Denver really special, is the fact that they hear you out and they take what you're going through into consideration, which is extremely cool.
And the fact that Kynsley, our daughter, was born here, now we have to love Colorado forever. That's just what it is.
It's our hometown.
So Denver isn't just a destination. It's a feeling, one of community, creativity, and connection.
As this city continues to grow, its story is still being written, one that embraces progress while honoring its roots.
I think there's a ton to do. I think definitely check out downtown, like the place we just mentioned. See Rhino Arts District here, which is all these cool murals. Everyone here is really friendly, really welcoming. It's a very progressive city. Obviously, the first state to legalize marijuana, the first state to legalize voting for women. And as I mentioned before, I think pretty early on for African Americans to vote too.
We think there's something for everybody. If you love theater, we got it. If you love live music, we got it. If you love sports, we got it. If you love history, we got it. If you love just great food and great places to drink and sit on a patio and enjoy a great summer night, we have all those things in Denver. And yet it's in a small enough city that it's easy to navigate. You can go to distinct neighborhoods that have different feels, and that's all part of the fun. And so I think it's both the perfect place for a weekend getaway. It's also a great place for you to say, all right, I'm graduating college, looking for my first job, where do I want to live? And right now, almost more than any city in America, young people are saying Denver.
From gold domes to green leaves, and from train stations to innovation hubs, Denver stands as a reminder that West is still wild, but now it's getting wiser.
Wait, what about the snow?
And that's exactly where our next adventure takes us, into the snow-capped wonderlands of Colorado's winter.